Welcome back, coaches. This is the Football Coaching Podcast. I'm Daniel Chamberlain, co-host, here with Joe Daniel, as always.
What's up, Coach?
Well, I'll tell you a funny story, Joe. I've been having weird feelers up in my body for about 3 weeks. I went to the VA hospital today. They call it, there's a word for it, essentially chronic appendicitis. So I get to have surgery in like 3 or 4 weeks. It's going to be great. Smoldering appendicitis, that's what they call it. Smoldering appendicitis.
Oh, that's way worse. Sounds terrible.
So it's like it won't erupt right now, so they're just going to treat it and let me go get it cut out in a few weeks. So,
well,
welcome to my world.
It's good that you found it. Thank you. I'm going to get a physical tomorrow, so now I'm concerned.
It was I was like, Dad just had cancer cut out before Christmas or whatever. So I was like, oh no, like and I'd been drinking a little bit of whiskey. I like to drink on the podcast, a little bourbon. I was a little scared of all that too. Not the liver, not cancer, appendicitis. So the best of the bad ones, I guess.
Sure.
But all things are good.
It's an organ. It's the one you don't need. It's the one that you can get rid of and move on without.
That's right. It's a vestigial organ or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's the word. I'm a biology teacher. I'm supposed to know that.
I'll see you multiple times before the surgery, but best of luck with it.
Thank you. You will see me multiple times. I won't even miss any days, it doesn't sound like. So.
Oh, good. I'll have to go solo and figure out how to do an intro again.
That was so funny. I listened back to the episode and I'm like, yeah, that's hilarious.
I have no idea.
For 109 years.
I don't remember. I remember how it always started. It always started the same. You were listening to the Football Coaching Podcast. And then.
What do I do?
Well, and also, I remember that I never had guests for years. So, I had to introduce Mike and figure that out. So, yeah.
Well, speaking of guests, we have a guy that's admitted he's listened to probably plenty of your solo intros. We're joined by Chris Cole, the new head coach of the Bristow Pirates. We are putting that out, right? It's not secret anymore.
No secret. No.
It's Twitter official.
Yes.
Good, because we don't edit.
Yeah, it was just going to come out.
Yeah.
Congratulations on the new job, man.
It'll be fine.
Well, appreciate it. Yeah, the new head coach of the Bristow Purple Pirates. So is this the part where I introduce myself?
It is. So, 30 seconds, talk about your football journey, where you're at, how you got there.
Cool.
You have a lot of rings to discuss?
No, not at all. So Chris Cole, I'm a graduate of Stigler High School in southeastern Oklahoma. I played I went to college at Southwestern College in Winfield, Kansas, played inside linebacker there for 5 years. And I actually got my start here in Bristow as a inside linebackers coach, and then moved on to my hometown again to coach for 2 years. Came back to Bristow, and after a year at Bristow, I was blessed to get the opportunity to coach at Bixby High School in Bixby, Oklahoma for the previous 5 years. And this past February, got the job offer or interviewed and got this whole process going. Now I'm going to be a head football coach here in the town that I've lived in for the last 6 years, Bristow, Oklahoma.
That's pretty awesome. If you don't know who Bixby is, they actually invented the Spartan kick. You can go check it out, especially all the times they gave it to people on the football field in the last, Jesus Christ, 10 years, 15 years?
But
it's been a long run.
Yeah, not 15. It's been, 9 and 10 years now.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's still insane.
Yeah.
Well, kudos to those guys. And, man, glad to have you on the show. Chris, we've shaken hands a couple times now walking across the field because I got the opportunity to go to Owasso last season and coach with those guys. And that's a whole different version of football, man. Me and my wife still laugh about how it is. That's college ball. Like 100%. 6A1 in Oklahoma is college football. Matter of fact, probably the only stadiums as nice are like OU and OSU because big boy ball. But man, super glad to have you on the show. We want to talk a little bit of defense, and I've asked you, I've texted you offensive questions before, and you're like, yes, please talk to the safeties coach about pass pro or something. So I thought, what better chance to get you on the show than talk a little bit about a defense tonight. Joe, before we get started here, do you want to pay the bills?
Yeah, check out, go to joedanielfootball.com/rules. Check out the 40 Coach Simple rules for football coaches who want to win more games. What I've done is gone and just taken 40 tips, tricks, tactic strategies that we have used, both that I've used with my own teams and that I've used with other football teams all over the country, all over the world for the last 15 years now. That one is 15 years. And so it's a free download, free PDF download. Things, everything from Coach Simple philosophy, pulling levers, figuring out your non-negotiables, developing your drills. It's all there. 40 Coach Simple rules for football coaches who want to win more games. Go to joedanielfootball.com/rules.
Awesome. Sweet. Well, we'll jump right into the questions here. First question is, and Joe, we'll let you start talking, and then we'll switch over to our guest here. We're talking about game planning our coverages. So, some schools you may just carry one coverage, and that's okay, right? You may just be a cover 3 with a cover 1 off. And I guess the question will go for you too. How are you picking to switch between that primary and alternate? But Joe, what does game planning look like to you when you start looking at defensive coverages? What are you going to run this week? What looks good?
Well, really, I mean, even if you only run one coverage, you probably, unless you're at the youth, let's say like a 10-year-old youth program, which we work with a lot of those as well, where you're pretty much just running cover 3. But for most of us, even if I'll give you an example. I work with some teams that are just cover 3, but if they see a team and spot drop cover 3, I mean, just base, that's it. That's what they do. But even with that, if they see a team that's straight 2x2 and is going to try to go down the field, they're going to have to do something different or focus somewhere. But yeah, what we're looking at is how do we decide where we want to focus our time in our coverage? How do we decide little things like alignment adjustments, little things, what are we willing to give up this week? What do we have to take away? And so the first thing that we look at is, are we going to be heavy man or heavy zone? I feel like if you're more of a pattern match, then you're looking more at, if you're split field quarters, you're looking at what checks are we going to use. If you're, like most of the time we are cover 3, cover 1. One of them is the focus. One of them is the secondary coverage. Otherwise, we're split field, and then cover 3 is usually the secondary coverage with a little bit of zero, blitz coverages. But we wanted to decide what is going to be the thing that we're going to focus on, the thing that we're going to run. We're not going to install new coverages, but we're certainly going to look at tweaks and twists and adjustments. Like I said, with your split field, you have a lot more. But that's kind of where I want to look at tonight is how do we look at our coverage package, break down the film, and say, okay, this is what we're going to need to do in the secondary to stop this team.
Yeah. So, Coach Cole, how does that work for you? Start your game planning process on Saturday or Sunday, whatever day you come into the office. What are you looking at to determine which part of your package you need to focus on that week?
Hold on. Are you in your new office right now?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Nobody has a desk that clear unless they
I know.
That clean, unless they
just paper over there.
For those of you in the audio,
this
is an absolutely it's many. Yeah.
Now he's showing off.
No, the rest of the office barren. It's like either that's the brand new office or we have a serial killer on the podcast.
No, I'm very sorry. I'm working on it. It's a work in progress.
Get some mess on that. Throw some old playbooks around.
I know.
Old practice plans that never get thrown out.
Like you'll appreciate the fact that this is the new that's the new clinic notebook that I was given. So
nice.
They printed it off before I accepted the job. So I have that. Okay, sorry. The question again was how do we game plan?
Game planning, yeah. What's your game plan process like, and especially for the secondary and looking at coverages to figure out what you want to focus on and run that week? So
for us at Bixby, which is where I'm coming from, again, we're going to try to implement as much as we can as far as pattern match at the 3A level at Bristow, where I'm currently at or where I'm going to, but at Bixby, it was all about where is the threat for the other team? Where's the deep ball threat? What are we most concerned with? Where are they trying to get the football to speed. And for us, we're constantly and consistently trying to, like everybody else, like everybody puts on paper, stop the run. So as much as Bixby football can commit 7 football players to the box, even out of 10 personnel, they're going to commit 7 to the box versus 10 personnel. So most often it's a 2 versus 2, a 3 over 3, and a 1 versus 1 as much as possible. So again, we run that quarters, that, pattern match, whatever you want to call it. We teach our guys that skill. The question is, how were teams like Owasso, how were teams like Jinx trying to manipulate splits of those wide receivers where we couldn't pattern match or palms, say, if we can't palms 3-2, and because one and two are stacked or too near to one another and 3 is separate, how can we alleviate the pressure on those safeties? Because for us at Bixby, we had a field safety who's a better cover guy. He's definitely a rangier, faster guy. And then we had a box safety who, if he had weighed 10 pounds heavier as a sophomore, would have got moved to nickel outside linebacker in our 3-4. So, there's a lot of concern with that. How do we alleviate that kind of pressure? Basically, that's how we look at it in game plan, because we know as defensive backs coaches, we're stopping the run first. Our job is to put our 4 guys in the best position possible to cover the route combos that those teams like to run the most.
So you just really you kind of start with that deep threat and then work backwards for your coverage, 7 in the box, and then cap all the top, and then just kind of let the rest sort itself out.
Basically, Owasso, great threat with number 7. So difference maker in the semifinal, different than week 0, where what was Jakari? One now. He was 23 the year before, I think. Either way, fast little guy. Where's that guy at? And how are they manipulating what we're doing? Because at Bixby, what we're doing coverage wise is fairly predictable. And people got good enough that they could predict where we were going to put people based on alignment, based on formation, because we're going to palms people. We're going to 2 read, whatever you want to call it. We're going to do that versus 2x2. So if you can motion to that and set up, you might get a mismatch based on who now is the deep cover guy. And so we have to declare things like, okay, if they motion from this to this, this is our check. But if this guy motions from 2x2 to 3x1, what can the nickel outside linebacker do to alleviate the pressure on that safety?
Right.
I think it's a really good point when you say that, at Bixby, the decision's kind of made for you. There's going to be 7 in the box, and you've got 4 to take care of, the deep threats, and then work from there. But where we start, a lot of places and a lot of teams, where we were going to start is figuring that out. So we don't know, okay, 7 are going to be in the box. It's how many do we need to commit specifically to the run? How many can we afford to be, not committed to the pass, but be more pass focused? Where do we need to put our guys? So in a 1 high situation, where do we might be looking at one of the things we look at is, okay, I can have a straight cover 3 where really I've got 8, 9-ish really committed to the run, compared to, the 2x2 situation where, okay, I'm going to have to play more cover 1, which some years actually we're better at forcing cover 1. But in general, we're going to have 2 players who are now still the run force because they're playing man on number 2, but they are no longer, just squatting at 5x5 or however we're going to play it. So figuring out how we're going to work the numbers. I know we've had years where we've had game plans where we said, hey, 7 are going to be in the box. You four are on your own. And we kind of go back to that count situation of, if I had to go to a count, I'd put the corners as being, fully committed to the pass in our system. I'd put, in general, the safeties as being 50%. So I'm looking at it and going, okay, I've got 3.5 out of my 5 in the secondary. I've got 3.5 level run commitment. There's other weeks where I'm telling those guys, like, I'm telling the free safety, nothing's back there. You're a linebacker lined up at 8 yards. Wing T week, don't worry about it. Double wing week is a great one. Double wing week, we are 2 guys playing pass, everybody else is playing run. So I think that might be a good starting point, is figuring out your numbers. How much is the pass a threat? How much do you have to commit to the pass?
And talked about being a cover 3, cover 1 team to start all this, and that's probably where most people are beginning, right? Especially if they're out listening to a podcast to learn how to be a coach. Probably cover 3, cover 1's where you're going to begin. And I think that actually just helps because hey, that high safety is going to be in the pass majority, or at least he's late alley help. But he's definitely not my force guy who might be supposed to be the post guy, or, his route can take him deep, but also I'm counting on him to be in the box. So when you start going back to game planning your coverages, there's a benefit to just having what is it, like a man with 2 clocks never knows what time it is, right? Like you're constantly trying to balance between 2 things. You find yourself at a disadvantage where at least this is what we do. Chris, you kind of said it there, right? At Bixby, we're going to put 7 in the box.
Yeah.
So the rest of it.
And then Chris, you're left with a different question, which is, how do I figure out? I know I got 4 to defend this. How do I figure out how to use these 4, because I'm seeing so many different looks?
Yeah. And so I got a question that's not on the sheet here. It's just, Chris, you talked about 2x2 and 3x1. I know Joe's got a trips check that kind of it'll pull your force player a little further out. He knows he's going to be play flat, so he doesn't have to go anywhere. He can almost buzz his feet and wait for the ball to commit before he does his job either way. With a little more advanced defense there at Bixby, was that ever a concern, or did you just kind of run what you run when you saw a 3x1 versus 2x2 or anything else?
So we actually, our call for our base coverage is just our trips check. If they come out in 3x1, that's our base coverage. And so that's the only call we have to make coverage wise. Okay. We'll call a front. That'll get all of the linebackers situated. And then the defensive backs know, based on formation, that's going to put us in whatever coverage it is to pattern match. So again, if it's 3x1, we know we're going to palms 3-2 with the safeties. We're going to man the ones with corners. And then we can tag like manipulations with the outside linebackers with those overhangs to put them in windows for RPOs, so on and so forth, based on game plan. So again, it's a lot of times for like me, it's like, where's the dude? Who are they trying to get the ball to? Is it Owasso where there's like 3 dudes? Is it Jinx where there's 2 dudes? And then, but that's how we look at that thing, where it's like it's a one call and you put a lot on your players. But again, when we're game planning this, when we're watching film with our guys, it's all about, again, watching film from practice. And then when they make a mistake, it's like, why did my safety make that call? And he's like, well, I saw this. It's like, cool. You had a reason. Your reason was wrong. It was really dumb, actually, because, their splits weren't big enough for you to make that call, or because that's the dude and you shouldn't have soloed him, that kind of thing. But at least you had a reason. That's my thing, is they're like, well, can I call this? And I'm like, do you have a reason? Like, just Tell me a reason and we'll correct it in practice. Even in a game, tell me a reason, and at least I know you're at least listening to what we're teaching you in practice and in film.
Absolutely. Real quick, I know before we go to the second question here, we're talking about having a dude, and you may find that your team doesn't have a dude this year. and maybe that's speed related, right? Most of the dudes, Chris, you're talking about Jakari and you're talking about Noah and some of those guys, and they were the dudes for a while because they had absolute speed. If you find yourself on a team that doesn't have speed, we have a program to help you out. You can elevate one of your ones, as Joe likes to call them, to a 1.5. And you can do that by teaching them how to run. And some of you may know that we sell, athletic speed movement now, where we're overselling Del Basquet's. He's at 46 years and counting on this speed development program. 6 NFL Hall of Famers have used Dell as their personal speed trainer. 25 plus all-pro players in the league have used Dell as their personal speed trainer. And this is a package you can go out and get right now. Jump over to athleticspeedmovement.com. You can sign up today. Add your email. You're going to get his 3 core principles to speed. It's for free. It's price your email. You get to watch that video. Dell's going to teach you the immediate basics of how the program works. And then, man, jump in, sign up. 12-week program. You can get started now. This is about mid-March, because this is Happy Leap Day, everyone, by the way, who's recording now. So this is Leap Day 2024. 12 weeks, get you into your summertime programming, and then you can just restart it when you get the rest of your guys back after they get out of all their travel baseball and basketball and all that craziness. Start the program over and get everyone up to speed. So give yourself a dude, elevate your ones to 1.5s, athleticspeedmovement.com. Extra bills paid. Question 2 here. Now, we kind of talked like picking your coverage there and game planning that. So what are some common adjustments? And Chris, we're going to start here with you. What are common adjustments you make with those, 4 guys, 6 guys, if you get to use the overhangs a little bit more that week? What are common adjustments you're making to your base to handle what an opponent's throwing at you?
So out of the 3-4, the common adjustment is to buzz the safety. There, like that for us is the easiest one, because most of the time we're going to blitz the weak overhang, and you can easily get to a cover 3 concept and still have, a lever player on that side to the weak side. But also, more often, for the situation that I've been in, we use those cover 3s, where whether it's a safety buzzing or a corner clamping, trapping, whatever you want to call it, where a corner cuts the face off one and is a flat player, because we teach all of our flat players attack the outside shoulder of the number 2. So where's your number 2 receiver? Relate to him. If he's vertical or in, bang, you can buzz your feet and work out, or you're looking for someone to come out. And so whether that's like I said, a trap corner on either side, weak or what you would call boundary, whatever, that is our like alleviator for teams that are either dinking and dunking us down the field, spitting the bubble outside, which again, there's a lot of teams in at the 6A1 level in Oklahoma that just have that edge speed. And if you're back there trying to bracket players, you're too far off. Or your guy that's a press guy is getting blocked, and they're able to bang mix it up, and one guy gets chipped, and your guy's not fast enough to get there to the corner. So again, having those bang, I'm a flat player now, and going and setting an edge and forcing it back in just alleviates everything. The other side of that is on those tricky things, you have people that are tempo pedaling backwards on the snap and not reading and not having to be as patient or waiting on someone to go vertical. They're getting vertical now. So again, it helps things a lot when people are going backwards from the start, as opposed to patiently waiting to see if they need to go backwards fast. So our alleviation again is a cover 3. And we've got a lot of variations on that as to who's in the flat, who's in the curl, and who's going back to those thirds.
Wonderful. Joe, same question to you here, sir. Just common adjustments.
Yeah, I mean, we're once we figure out what we've got as far as numbers, we figure out what a lot of it's going to be, obviously personnel wise, finding out the guy. When we play, again, we're 3A Virginia. Sorry, it's Class 3. Apparently, A is not a part of it. Class 3 in Virginia is when we see a stud receiver, it's usually one that really stands out. And in those situations, it's how do I get 2 over him? Because it's very likely that we don't have someone who can match that guy. I think I was told that our school, I believe that our school has had one Division I player since 1950 or whatever it is. So we ain't got that. We got to figure it out, and we got to figure out how to get 2 over that guy. We got to figure out what they want to do. Same thing like you talked about, Chris. If they want to bubble him, we can't have 2 standing 10 yards deep playing, hey, we're going to be inside and outside the fades. Like, that's great. They're just going to turn and catch it. And now we got 2 guys who can't catch him in space, and that's a problem. So figuring out what they want to do. Everything from adjusting leverage. A lot of times it's going to be more based on their route concepts, which we can talk about. We want to talk about in a little bit in the practice planning, but more based on what I want to do for our guys is identify, and this is when there's not a dude. I want to identify what it is that they do. And by the way, when I say there's not a dude, there's always somebody that's better. So if they throw the ball well enough, not a 95% run wing T team, not a double wing team. If they throw the ball well enough to make it count, obviously we're going to look at, do I need to move somebody? Are they going to try to set him up as a solo receiver on the backside of trips? And I need to make sure that I've got my best guy running with him, whatever the setup is that I need to be aware of. So we'll match personnel up like that, even if we don't have to necessarily double them. We're going to look at what it is, the route concept, 2 route concepts, 3 route concepts that they actually run frequently and run well. And then I want to, we have our base alignment rules, right? Corners 2 yards inside, 7 yards off. And they're different than what other people's base alignment rules. We're usually, 7 yards off outside leverage, 1 to 3 yards outside leverage and cover 1 with the overhang safeties on number 2. Slow pedal out. Depth of the free safeties anywhere from 9 to 12, depending on, in a single high. Same adjustments, even more adjustments when we've been split field with the safeties, as far as, does he need to be 10 yards off or 8 yards off, because he's still, the weak side safety in a 4-2 is still the force. So it's like, what do I do with him? So figuring out the leverage and figuring out the depth that they need to have and adjusting that is probably the biggest thing that we do, but really that's more related to adjusting their mindset. What I want to be able to tell my guy is, all right, they run whatever. For example, we had a team, this is really, really simple. They ran a bubble, they ran a hitch, and they ran a fade. And I think maybe they ran a post. And that was it. Of course they have other stuff. They throw a slant, sure. Am I worried about the slant? No, not really. Okay, these are the things they do. So it was like, all right, you slow pedal out for the corner, because he's not, the bubble, he's going to rip outside. Slow pedal out. If the ball is thrown, if you see quarterback, he's king quarterback. If you see quarterback snap up to the flat right now, go ahead and rip outside. It's bubble. Make sure the ball is thrown and then rip outside. It's bubble. If you see the quarterback, 1, 2, 3, and that's about your hitch timing, we're still slow pedal. We're slow 1, 2, 3. Okay, now if you see the quarterback turn to the flat, it's hitch. Go ahead and drive to that shoulder on the receiver. And then if you see 1, 2, 3, and the ball is not in the air, it's fade. Right? It's fade. Maybe it could be post, but he's going to have broken by now if it's post. So it's fade. And so being able to tell that kid, look, you have 3 routes to defend, or 3 concepts to defend: a bubble, a hitch, and a fade. That's a very simple one to defend. But if I can find that in the game plan, we're going to set him up hey, what's your leverage need to be? That one was post, because I said the post was the third or fourth concept. And I said, I still need you 2 yards inside, because I want you playing fade with your eyes and playing fade in your mind. But that 2 yards inside leverage is plenty of room to make up for when the ball goes in the air. But by your body position, I want to make sure that you're 2 yards inside, because by your body position, you're taking away post.
Right.
So that's where we take a simple cover 3 and we cover the bubble, the hitch, the fade, and the post. Mentally, he knows, okay, it's not this, then let me check this. It's not this, let me check this. And the last thing it could be is the post, and body position wise, I'm right there to handle that. So game plan wise for me, even though, yeah, we're cover 3, cover 1, that's what I want to look at. Now, there's a lot of little tweaks that we can do as far as leverage. One of the big ones is, we talk about RPOs. I want to be outside leverage because we're such a run heavy. I want to be outside leverage in number 2, because my biggest concern is not giving up the edge on anything, on a toss, on a sweep, on anything like that. But if a team shows us that they can hit a little mini curl on an RPO, I know that I probably need to move inside leverage because I can play the bubble a little bit easier than I can play giving up that, especially in 3x1 where I've got to slide guys and all that sort of stuff. So we can play with some inside, some outside leverage. So that's the kind of thing that's the tweaks that I'm looking to do if it's not so obvious. I mean, we had one that was, we had a great game plan, but they had a dude, I want to say he's at Michigan State, but I'm not sure. But when he lined up, if he was at number 3, it was a bubble. If he was at number 2, it was this. If he was at number 1, it was this. If he was the single receiver on the backside of the trips, it was this. I mean, it was very predictable. So we always had 2 on him, but it was like, all right, he's at number 3. Our strong side linebacker is just flying. You would never do this unless it was such a strong tendency. He was just flying to the bubble. That's cool and all, but that's not the norm. Like, that's not week in and week out what we get to do.
Yeah. When I start looking at adjustments, jumping over to Owasso this year and having to play Bixby 5 times. Do you know how unfortunate it is to be a freshman coordinator? 5 times you have to try to stop Bixby's offense. It's ridiculous. But I mean, we try to bring a great offense every week too at Owasso, and I think our kids did a fantastic job. I probably failed them. I was out-coached more than we were out-kidded for sure. But y'all talked about bubble already, and back out was kind of a big thing, right? That I've not faced before as a coordinator. People just consistently wanting to get the back out and force you to leave a dude in the flats. Doesn't matter what you're trying to run. You better have an answer. Call it a push alert or whatever you want to call it, right? Just they're going to add a fourth. They can overload you 3x1 and add a fourth. And so that's an adjustment I had to start making. And so that kind of made it into my common every week. I'm going to have this situation figured out. Also, and so that was an adjustment off of our base stuff. Weak side, how are we going to play the weak side? 3x1 became kind of the nuisance there. We were in a 3-4, luckily, and Chris, you talked about like you're going to blitz that backside guy most of the time. That was generally our plan, our game plan, but we still had to figure out sometimes how to keep him in coverage, but still force that side with him. And then you start getting counter and power to the weak side, and you don't have anybody to wrong arm. And if he goes into wrong arms, you don't have a force player because he's playing a third. So, it can get pretty chaotic. So working with your players to leave a corner in the flat backside and rotate a safety over the top or whatever those adjustments have to be. So instead of my adjustments being necessarily, each player, what they're going to do, it's like, how do we handle each one of these plays individually? One of the big ones I started trying to use there at the end was the different versions of Sky. So, you want to talk about quarters coverage. Joe's version of Sky is where I started, and that's keeping the safety down, right? S for Sky, S for safety force. And that's something that I worked with Dominic Franks. That's how he likes Sky to be ran as well, right? Safety rotates because you're changing the picture on the quarterback. He sees a pressed or a low corner, and now he's going over the top, and the safety was high, and he's coming down. And then I started working in a little bit of like the Cody Alexander Sky. Leave that safety up there. He's already in position to play. Let him sit and wait on routes to come to him. But then we know we're leaving a corner or an outside backer to try to set an edge, which isn't isn't always real good football, especially at the level of ball I've coached. So, that's an adjustment we've made. Where do I want that safety? Who do I need to force that backside? Generally, like you're talking 4-2-5, especially. I need that safety coming down, right? When I get into 3-4, I've got an outside backer sitting out there. It's not so much of a concern.
That's a much bigger consideration than the 3-4. It's important to point out. In the 3-4, you've got, as Chris talked about, you have outside linebackers that might be, you've got so many different guys that can be forced, that can be setting an edge, or that can be coming on a blitz for you, or you can use them in different places. To whereas if you're in a 4-2 or even a 4-3 to an extent, although you have a little more flexibility with the outside backers, with a 4-2, you're a little more static in that, like, these guys are forced, these guys are alley.
Right. Yeah. So, the ability to answer those questions with little adjustments, but man, my adjustments had to grow last year. That was something I had to figure out real quick and I kind of enjoy this question being on here tonight, so I can hear how the guys that are doing it well are always doing that. But that's the three things I started paying attention to when you go back into that game planning question. How are they attacking the weak side? What are they doing with their backs? And then do I need to play Sky with a high call or Sky and bring him down kind of the old-fashioned Joe Daniel way? So your way is the old-fashioned way now. How do you feel, Joe? It's good.
I didn't come up with it.
Hey, when you have a quality product for 15 years, you might as well take advantage of it.
I might as well. Chris, what do you mentioned having some issues with receiver splits, and how do you handle the trips into the boundary with the formation of the boundary with that scheme? Are you using the outside backer to help to handle that more? Or
no? So a lot, like again, with a simple tag, you can manipulate out of the 3-4. We can manipulate where the outside linebacker's alignment is. If we want to attach him, you can make a certain call, and he's right off the edge. Again, at Bixby, we play our defensive strength is based on speed. So if you have, what we call queen, which is tight end, single, twins on the other side, the strength of our defense is going to be to that twin side. So again, if you had trips into the boundary, most likely they're going to be way too bunched up to properly run any type of two read. So,
right.
A lot of times out of that situation, we're rolling a cover 3 in that situation, just to have a force player now out of a corner, usually a corner or a safety. But we also don't want them to. A lot of times, we want everything to look the same. We want everything to look like we're running our base coverages. But if you're going to try to manipulate your formations with receiver splits or into the boundary type thing, then we're going to show our hand, but we're also going to make you show your hand from the snap. You're going to have to block an overhang safety who's lined up on the outside shoulder of number 2, or a corner who's really pressed up in between 1 and 2 based on your alignment and based on our coverage call. And there's different ways. Again, you get into practice and you start talking to your guys. And for us, it all started in spring ball, where it's like, yeah, this is what we want out of this trap coverage by a corner. But this is how a safety can help what we call sugar. Anytime we throw that on there, that's sugar, even though the guys, what is it? Salt. Yeah, I know.
Salt Bay.
Sugar. That's the call. And we'll make boom. This is the call, and then just throw a little sugar on there, and the guys know don't be static. Otherwise, they're going to make every single coverage look like it's our base coverage. And so, if it's into the boundary and we throw sugar on there, you can expect to see a safety press and a corner moving, pre-snap a little bit, or maybe they show it and then post-snap, bang. It's the reversal of who's covering that flat. Again, it's going to confuse the heck out of wide receivers. I think one of the best examples was at team camp at Bixby last May. We had they're the Flyers, East St. Louis, just one of the best teams in the whole country. some stud athletes all over the place, and they were really good at running fades and bubbles because they have extraordinary athletes. And one time we put a little sugar on there, they threw a bubble, wham! A sophomore corner from Bixby put that on his highlight tape. And the kid from East St. Louis was just like, dude, I didn't know what to do. It's like, yeah, because we sugared it and they had seen it for 2 days of team camp. And on that third day, when it was competition period, just throw a little wrinkle in there. And we've practiced it, that slight adjustment, bang, kid, dents a face mask. Sorry, I was listening to your concussion podcast on the way down here. So I don't mean dent a face mask and hurt somebody. I just mean really good hit was put on.
Right.
A really good physical football play.
You can still say things like
safe
face mask.
physical hit.
Yes.
Well,
Heads up.
Joe, actually, both of your comments kind of added up. I was thinking about palms and like the adjustments you had to make there, and just knowing to teach your kids when to kind of check out of it, right? Talk about if your kids get too wide, are they too bunched, too close to the formation, and I think, Joe, it's what you call like a banjo call, right? It's where you're telling them, hey, we're just going to high-low this or in and out this. Don't worry about watching one dude for an outbreaking route. Somebody's setting outside, someone's setting high. Don't let them do anything stupid to you here. We've kind of put that in, which I guess is technically a sky call in the long run, right? You got a high safety and a corner setting outside waiting on something, but is it Joe's sky call? Because yours is more of a robber with the corner.
It kind of breaks your doesn't break it, but if you're doing that, it's a man call, so you're no longer in zone. And when we, depending on the width, we would usually either press with the corner and play it almost like a cover two. If number one is on, like let's say we're going to banjo number one, number two, corner can press from the outside leverage, and he can play it almost like a press cover two. Or if it's a tighter split, we would put the safety outside in his normal 7-yard, put the corner inside in his 8-yard, and that way we're leveled off and playing off man, and safety still in position to force if he needs to. And then in situations where we really need to be concerned about the run, but also banjo that, which is more going to be game plan and special players, the free safety would walk out. We would just be playing essentially a cover zero with the free safety removed from the box. The safety, the strong safety now doesn't have to worry about that coverage. It's going to be more similar. We might make a tiger cat call or something with that. So different ways to do it.
Awesome. Well, we'll jump into our last question here, guys, and this is more about practice planning. And so, what are you doing in your practice script, or however you plan your practice, to ensure that you're seeing the offense's top play concept, their top passing concept? So, if it's top 3, top 5, whatever your game plan is. So, Chris, we'll start with you again here, man. So, just how are you making sure that practice is what you're going to see on game night?
So again, we're going to go in from as soon as we get that film, and we're going to label every pass play, and then filter that through on Sunday and try to figure out, okay, these are these pass plays. And again, for us, it's it's 1, 2, and then we tag in like the notes column of huddle, if there's a third concept. And then if we can mirror that with what our wide receiver, with what Bixby's offense does, which again seems super complex, but we have that freshman staff that helps us out. Again, to us, like a fade out curl is a 1-word call for Bixby. You know what I mean? So it's like, to me, as the defensive backs coach, it's like bang, fade out. Okay, that's what the DBs are worried about. You know what I mean? But like when we're game planning it for Coach Flowers, our defensive coordinator, to know, he knows now, okay, this is the concept they're running. For my DBs, it's like we have to work these route like combinations when we get into that. And so we're going to, myself and the cornerbacks coach, we're going to get together. We're going to draw up way too many plays. We're going to draw every single route combo out of every formation and just have it. Because I promise you, if we don't draw it, that's the one the DC wants on Thursday. And it's super frustrating to go back and draw things up. Super painstaking. If it wasn't for that, I'd have less gray hairs in my beard. But it is what it is at this point. And so that's how we go about it. How many times did they run this concept? And so we're going to rep it, and we're going to rep it, and we're going to rep that in individual. And again, because we're a pattern match and really a formation rec based on our base coverage, we spend a lot more time in form rec and defensive back individual. Not so much team individual. Like, yes, we do a form rec period, but in DB Indy, say we have 15, at least 5 of it is going to be spent on the sideline, which is cool because we started doing it during COVID just because it was like spaced out and we didn't want to get the entire defense in that same area at one time. We just started doing it on the sideline and going, the number 1 receivers on the goal line, the number 2 receivers on the 5, the ball is on the 10, number 2 on the 15, number 1 on the 20, and we're facing out from the sideline. And so you get 4 DBs out there, your 2s are playing those 4 wide receivers, and we motion them, and they make those checks, and then you say, okay, now it's trips. What's your base call out of base? They say, then you motion out of it, or you motion to the backfield, you orbit motion, or whatever. And so those kids get that bang, just the communication of getting lined up. And the thing that I love the most about having these match concepts is as long as you're lined up with eyes on the number of receivers you have to have.
We don't know yet.
You're going to be able to have eyes.
Funny thing is going to be recorded on his computer and sound
snap the football.
Yeah.
As opposed
I'll put it
to
in here to cut out.
As opposed to cover 3, where it's like people staring on the quarterback.
We lost most of that, man. You disappeared right in the middle. That's okay.
We may have lost it. I don't know. We probably will still have it, but
okay.
Yeah, we'll check it out at the end. It usually uploads from your side.
Recording on your computer, so we'll have it. So it sounds like you're doing a lot of the same thing there with the formation recognition. Just working with. We started doing a lot more of that this year. We used to be very standard. We go to Indy, then we go to 7-on-7, and we work the route concepts, usually 3 and a play action and a screen, whatever. And we work those route concepts, and then we go to, team. And team would have team run focus, pass focus, all that sort of stuff. This year we spent, and I don't do the practice planning, so it's not a 90-minute practice plan because there wouldn't be time for all this. We'd already be gone. But we did spend a chunk of time, and kind of what you're saying, we would just have the DBs, and we'd go to say a 3x1. We'd work the trip side, so that's going to be our strong safety, field corner, or whatever it is. Probably rotate the corners because they usually play left and right. We did play field and boundary last year, I think so. Corners weren't my problem last year. But the safeties in the corner, and we're just working on that one, picking one route. In fact, a lot of days it would be one route concept that we are just going to work on. We're going to work it. We're going to work it. We're going to work it. And going over every little kind of what we were talking about before, going over how to take advantage of that, how to see it, how to get the right alignment, how to use that alignment to your advantage, what's your problem and what's not your problem. Because very much trying to keep our kids focused on, and in that situation, the quarterback back there, because we use our regular quarterback, we're 2 platoon, we're not a 2 platoon. So the only kid who doesn't really play both ways is the quarterback. So he's servicing us being the quarterback. Well, he's going to see, some sort of under route is wide open. He throws it. It's like, bro, we don't have linebackers right now. Can you Don't throw picks, but just like chuck it over somebody's head or hold it if it's not there. Because now I got kids, you know how kids are, they're like yelling at each other trying to figure out who gave up that route, and I'm like, he's not here, let it go. But we would put a lot of focus in that period on getting this look. So maybe it's stacked receivers, or maybe it's 2 and 3 are stacked, or one split out, or maybe it's single receiver, or whatever it is. Maybe it's like you were talking about before, Daniel, with 4 to a side, and we would just work on those, that 1 or 2 or 3 route concepts, usually 1 or 2 out of each formation look, and just really work those, and then take that to 7-on-7, and then take it into team. So the same principle always applies in practice. We're building from indie. So for us with the safeties, and I've always been the safeties coach, the safeties would focus on their umbrella drill and getting their run pass keys. And okay, it's a bubble. I'm driving on the bubble. It's a pass. I'm just opening up to what I see. Now I go to the second part of that, which is I know it's a pass. We're working these route concepts as a group. This would sometimes replace. We'd be doing an inside run period or something like that with the other group. Only having 3 or 4 coaches. I know this is a foreign concept. If you've from Bixby and Owasso, we 4 coaches. We got to be a little more condensed. But working that, building to working the route concept, and then we go to 7-on-7 where I'm playing the game. I've got the linebackers there. Then we go to team where I've got run, I've got pass. I'm playing we're just building as the practice goes along, and trying to focus that from day to day. We would be full Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, trying, hey, Monday is going to be heavy quick game concepts. Tuesday is going to be heavy drop back concepts. Wednesday is going to be heavy on the play action concept or 2 that they run.
Yeah. I got real big into percentages this year, and that was just trying to tie like generally I could get it down to 2 concepts per formation. OCs really want to run certain things from certain formations because a lot of them are just thinking about leverage. I found, over on the big team side this year, even some of those OCs weren't as advanced as like our guy at Owasso or Cameron was over at Bixby. Some of them still just was like, hey, I just need to know numbers and leverage, and I'm going to run this play. And so what I was able to do was just percentage-wise throughout practice, kind of what I saw it on game film and a couple films we had was the percent I wanted to run it in practice. So I found I could tie it to that, teach the kids the 2 or 3 whatever concepts each formation was going to produce. And then that way I was, Joe, you started talking about pre-programming their mind in the last year or so. It's a thing you've been talking about. And so I could do that then. Like, hey, if we get, a nub tight end, if we get a formation in the boundary, why are they there? What are the couple things they've shown? And then as we go through our 7-on-7, our, inside run, I can still keep them thinking about that stuff, even though they know right now I'm coming to fit the run because this is inside run, but I can still be having them think about that pass play. And then, of course, team, that's where I really get to mix it in by percentage. So I'm not going to waste my time running a whole bunch of one-offs. I'm going to stop the stuff that I know they're trying to run and then whatever trick plays. Because I found that most of them would just try to run the same stuff over and over again. A lot of them would just want to regurgitate. And maybe it was 3 or 4 weeks old, but, as you get back and find that tape, it kind of is okay. So, that was kind of how we did it, just to make sure we saw everything we thought they wanted to run. I tried so hard this year to not just chase ghosts, right? My whole career, I've tried to game plan what could they do. I've tried to, what would I do out of that formation against my defense? I would terrorize myself, pretending to be the other team's OC. And this year I just had to kind of quit doing that. And it paid off pretty good. We had a really good advancement in our record. So, that's kind of, I went the percentage route and it seemed to pay off okay.
That's and you mentioned it too, Chris, the defensive coordinator for me, when as the offensive coordinator, I would say, what do you want to see? And then I would put that into our terminology. and our terminology, we can create any formation, we can create any concept that you want. And because, again, my starting quarterback is going to be the quarterback in scout team. I don't want him running their offense. I want him running my offense, even if it's a play that I'm not going to call or a concept that I'm not going to call. I can say, hey, and like sometimes we run across something that he really speed option was one that we ran across. Like we had to run speed option for somebody. Now it was a part of our package for a while because he just ran it well. But I would try to, tell me your three concepts. Tell me your three passes. Tell me your three runs. Tell me what you want to see. Tell me the formations you want to see. And we wristband the scout team. So it's on a wristband and it's a done deal, right? Check this out. Everybody good? There's no drawing up a new play. Now, obviously we can do that and I can bring them to the huddle and say, run this one, but I don't want to. I want to go fast. I want to get a lot of reps. I want to go home. And, inevitably, the DC, who was supposed to tell me everything that he wants, will come up with some run that one, and the description is always mind-blowing. And I know I've done it because I was a DC for years. The description always is like, run that one they ran against Central on play 37.
Yeah.
Bro, I'm the offensive coordinator. I quit watching that crap after I drew up scout cards. That's not my problem. Like, tell me what you want. And they tell me, well, that's not exactly it. Well, we ain't exactly them. I'm sorry. It's not. So it always happens that way. They always want something that wasn't on the cards. So
Absolutely.
I like the idea of drawing up everything. Just screw it. You know he's going to need something. We're going to bring out an Encyclopedia Britannica of plays.
Especially when you have the disposable staff, then I'm sure it's a little bit easier to. Yeah, you guys just draw everything.
Yeah, I'm the offensive coordinator. I'm over here drawing up your scout plays. Oh, that's that time we lost.
Well, that's all right. I think we've checked all the boxes anyways. We've talked about all the things. We answered all the questions. Real quick, you want to pay the bills and we'll start getting out of here.
Yeah, go check out, if you want to get that 40 Coach Simple Rules that I mentioned at the beginning, go to joedanielfootball.com/rules, 40 Coach Simple Rules for football coaches want to win more games. It is tips, tricks, tactics, strategies, drills, non-negotiables for your defense, Coach Simple philosophy, pulling levers, all the things that you can focus on. You can take these rules, you can start applying them to your football team right now. As you go into spring ball or as you're working in your off season and getting prepared, getting your playbook ready, getting your drill package ready. And one or two of these could win you a football game. So go check it out. It's a free download. Just go to joedanielfootball.com/rules.
Awesome. We want to thank Coach Cole for jumping on tonight. I know he's obviously taking over a program now. He's going to be an extremely busy man. He's, kind of one of those guys that's been a listener of the podcast for a long time. And it was pretty neat for me to, walk across and shake hands with a guy. He's like, hey, you're the podcast guy. And then, got to tell me how I'm not the one he likes. It's you, Joe. So.
We're just helping him get used to being at the office at 8:30 at night.
That's right. That's right.
That's life now, buddy.
So Coach, we did lose him, so he'll be listening to this in his car.
He'll find out what happened later. Yeah.
Whatever he does. Yeah. He'll be listening to it live. So thank you so much for coming. If you guys have any questions, I think he's on Twitter. You can reach out to him there. Just Google or search Chris Cole. I think he's over at the Bristow Pirates now. So Bristow High School, reach out and find him. I am at Coach Chambo OK on Twitter/X. You can also email me at chamberlainfootballconsulting@gmail.com. Joe is on Facebook at Joe Daniel Football. You can find him on Instagram. Did you get on to TikTok? Is that thing?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Look, I just picked up 55. We just doubled my followers in the last 24 hours. I don't know what happened on TikTok. Somebody shared something, I guess. Somebody popular shared something. We went from 55 to 110. So I'm getting troll comments now. I'm answering them back because who cares? Somebody asked what my credentials were.
What are your credentials?
What are my credentials? Don't worry about it. I don't have credentials, pal. This ain't a credentialed job. So,
Well, so you can find him over at TikTok. You can find him on Instagram at Joe Daniel Football, and then on Twitter/X at Football Info, where Shim just shares replays of the podcast. continuously and laughs at stuff that I put on there from time to time.
I got a guy that shares college baseball picks now, so I've been on Twitter more often lately.
There you go.
In my college baseball picks.
I like it.
Yeah.
College softball's going. Sooners 65 in a row. Let's go. If it's your first time listening to Football Coaching Podcast, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. You can find us on your favorite podcatcher, Spotify, Apple Podcast, wherever it is you listen to things you listen to. If you've been listening for a while, please leave us a review. If it's lower than 4 or 5 stars, let us know why. Jump into the Chalk Talk forum or shoot us an email, a DM, whatever it happens to be. Let us know why you don't like what you're hearing. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Football Coaching Podcast. Remember, coach simple, play fast, win.